My brother Jim called us that last morning, Saturday morning, from my dad's hospital room. He called at 7 a.m. and said, "Why don't you have breakfast and come on down?" Then he called back 15 minutes later and said, "Don't have breakfast. Come on down." So we piled into our blue Chevy station wagon. I don't remember who was behind the wheel, whether it was my mom or my brother Joe, because they'd both gotten their driver's licenses that year within the past 6 months. My mom at 48, my brother at 18. It was a toss-up, which of them we felt least in danger with behind the wheel. What I do know is that they were in the front seat, team driving. And I curled up in the back seat, and I went back to sleep. I fell back asleep on my dad's TV pillow. It was green corduroy covered, foam stuffed. My dad had a really bad back, and this was the pillow that he put under his knees whenever he was in bed watching TV. I grew up in a TV family. We had TVs in almost every room in the house. But the very best TV was the one at the foot of my parents' bed. And what made that TV so great was that it was remote control. Now, the remote wasn't like the ones we have now with lots of buttons and knobs and dials on it, looking like you could fly an airplane. This was the very first model of remote control TV. And the remote was a little tin box with one button coming up at an angle from it. And if you were a little kid like I was when we first got it, you needed both thumbs to push it down. When you pushed the button down, it would make a really loud clicking sound. And that's what we called it. It was the clicker. Have you seen the clicker? Has anybody got the clicker? We never called it the remote. Push that button once, the TV would turn on. Push the button again, the TV would turn off. Click on, click off. One button that could do two tricks. Now, if you wanted to change the channel or change the volume, you still had to crawl to the end of the bed to turn one of the dials, but we could turn that TV on and off from the doorway of the room, and that was magic. My dad could work miracles with the TV. This is how one of them went. I said he had a really bad back. He had this back brace that he wore for as long as I could remember. It was a dirty yellow manila envelope color. It came from right under his arms to the top of his hips. It had thick metal stays, laces in the back to pull his back tight and straight, and big metal snaps down the front. He would have that on over his undershirt, but then he'd take his button shirt off. He'd go into the living room, which was right underneath my parents' bedroom. My brother Joe and I, we would run upstairs to my parents' bedroom. We'd make sure the TV was off. When everything was ready, we would stomp on the floor so that my dad knew. And when he heard the signal, he would grip the top edges of that back brace and he would rip it open. And if he ripped it open at just the right speed, at just the right angle, so all those metal snaps popped just the right way, it would turn the TV on upstairs. Right through the floor. It was a miracle. Now, my dad could work other miracles with the TV. He could work the miracle of getting our mother to let us stay up late on a school night to watch a movie. Now, it wasn't any night. It was only on Monday nights. Mondays, my brother Joe and I would have to come home from school. We'd do all our homework in the afternoon. Then we would eat dinner, and after dinner, we'd have to go to bed. We'd have to sleep fast. We'd have to sleep hard. And at 10:25, Dad would wake us up to watch the movie with him at 10:30. My mother would say, "Richard, what is wrong with you? They're children. It's a school night. They need 8 hours of sleep." And my dad would say, "They're getting 8 hours of sleep. They're just getting it in 2 batches." The math worked, so we got to do it. Now, if my dad went to all that effort to get us to be able to get up, he had some rules of his own. We had to stay awake. We had to stay all the way awake. You couldn't fall asleep for any of the movie at all, because if you fell asleep and you missed any of it, he wouldn't tell you what happened. And he wouldn't let anybody else tell you what happened either. Even if all you did was nod off and miss the very last 5 minutes of the movie, and that falling asleep where you don't even know you've fallen asleep until you have a moment of whiplash, and suddenly the credits are rolling. And why are the credits rolling? Because the last I saw, there was a mob, and there were pitchforks, and there were torches, and now there's the credits, and what did I miss? You could beg, you could plead. He would look you in the eye, and he would say, "Everybody died. Everybody died and went to heaven." Now, is that? I got really good at staying awake. I can stay awake through almost anything. My brother Joe never developed this skill. He thinks pretty much every movie made in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, especially the Universal and Hammer horror films, all end with everybody dying, everybody going to heaven. I slept on my dad's green corduroy foam-stuffed TV pillow in the back seat of our car on the way to the hospital. And I could sleep because I knew something that nobody else in my family knew. I knew that my father was not going to die.